Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Swamiji.
Good evening, Manish Babu. Yes. Good evening, Noel.
Good evening, Maharaj.
Good evening, Shubhash. Yes. And Arundhati.
No.
Good evening, Suresh ji.
Good evening, Swamiji.
Yes. How is the weather in Bay Area?
It's cool. It's
Cool.
been cool a few days, right?
Yeah, here too. Good evening, Mrs. Johnson.
Good evening, Swami.
Good evening, Paul and Linda.
Good evening, Swami.
Good evening, Swami.
Good evening, Betty. Good evening, Gunamai.
Good evening, Swami.
Yes. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Parekh. Devanjali, good morning to you.
Good morning, good evening to you.
All right, so it's time for us to start. Okay, so let's start with chanting. We shall chant Santi Mantra 5, which we chanted already. And today we shall chant a new one, Shanti Mantra 6. And this is the last Shanti Mantra that we are going to chant. In fact, there are quite a few other Shanti Mantras, but these 6 are the most popular ones. And that's why we have selected only these 6. First, the 5th one, then the 6th one, the new one. Please chant 5. We shall read the translation together. Sweet blow the winds, and the oceans give forth blessedness. May the herbs and plants bring us health and happiness. Sweet unto us be the nights and dawns. May every particle of Mother Earth be charged with blessing. May the heavens shower us with benediction. Sweet unto us be the noble forest trees. Sweet unto us be the shining sun. Sweet unto us be all living creation. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. So we shall chant call and response. Okay. And this time I have rather broken down the sentences into smaller phrases. Om, Om, Madhuvata, Madhuvata, Ritayate, Ritayate, Madhu Sharanti, Madhu Sharanti, Sindhavaha, Sindhavaha Madhiirna Madhiirna Shantoshadhihi Shantoshadhihi Madhunaktam Madhunaktam Utoshasi Utoshasi Madhumat Madhumat Parthivagam Parthivagam Rajaha Rajaha Madhudvaur Madhudvaur Astuna Pita Astuna Pita Madhu Mano Madhu Mano Banaspatir Banaspatir Madhumagam Madhumagam Astu Suryaha Astu Suryaha Madhir Gabo Madhir Gabo Bhavantunaha Bhavantunaha Om Shantihi 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 Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Now let us chant together. Om Madhuvata Ritayate Om Madhuvata Ritayate Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha Madhuksharanti Sindhavaha Madhiirna Shantoshadhihi Madhiirna Shantoshadhihi Madhunaktam Utoshasi Madhumat Parthivagam Rajaha Madhumat Parthivagam Rajaha Madhudvaur Astuna Pita Madhudvaur Astuna Pita Madhumano Banaspati Madhumagam Astu Suryaha Madhir Gabo Bhavantunaha Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. I know I made some mistakes. Sometimes I repeated. Okay, now please chant 6. This is the last one. Om, that is infinite, and this universe is infinite. The infinite proceeds from the infinite. Then, taking the infinitude of the infinite universe, it remains as the infinite alone. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto all. These two call and response. Om Purnamadaha Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnamidam Purnat Purnat Purnam Purnam Udachyate Udachyate Purnaswa Purnaswa Purnam Purnam Adhaya Adhaya Purnam Purnam Evavashishvate Evavashishvate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. You have seen that this time the last Shanti, that too, the tone of the I, the note of the I is lower one. It denotes the ending of the peace chants. This is the last peace chant. All right. So this time together. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnaswa Purnam Adaya Purnam Evavashishvate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. All right. Now I have a question to ask. Do you want to go to next chanting? Maybe a hymn or a stotra or whatever? Or would you like to go through once more through these peace chants? Let me know. Either by chat will be good. I would come to know. So the question is whether you would like to learn new chants or repeat the peace chants once more. Good. Answers are coming. All right. Okay. So I think I got 9 vote for peace chants. And how many? New 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. I got 5 for new chants and 9 for repeating the peace chants. Okay, so you can repeat peace chants. It will take, say, 2 or 3 classes at the most. Then we can start a new chant. Okay, surely we would go to new chant. So before going to that, I thought since we learned the, accent of Vedic chanting, so 2 more classes, then we shall go to new peace chant. Okay. All right. All right. Now to Narada Bhakti Sutra. So we are studying Narada Bhakti Sutra. And after trying to give us a hint of what Para Bhakti, supreme devotion, is, Narada told us in aphorism 15 that although essentially the same, but bhakti could manifest in different flavors or could manifest in different styles and forms in accordance with the different viewpoints which are due to limitations of human mind. Then one of the style or form of expression of bhakti we saw in aphorism 16, which is according to Vyasa, the sage, bhakti is love for doing ritualistic worship, puja, and other such ritualistic devotional activities like fire ceremony, vesper service, etc. Or in its broader term or broader meaning, it can also encompass karma yoga, serving every human being as seeing God in them, or doing all the work as an offering to God. Or even we can see Manasa Puja, which is totally and mental, mental worship, mental contemplation, as if mentally I am doing worship. All those things could mean puja, adishu, puja, etc. And according to Vyasa, that is the expression of devotion. If someone loves to do this type of things, this type of activities, it is an expression of devotion. Now today we shall see another very important expression or form or style of bhakti, how bhakti manifests in another way. That is katha. Katha means divine stories. Hearing the divine stories, listening to them, talking about them, singing them, chanting them, or contemplating them. This is a wonderful form of devotion. In fact, to the Vaishnavas, the devotees of Sri Krishna, who are forerunners among the, we would say, the devotees, the different branches of devotion or different groups of devotees, the Vaishnavas have kind of mastered the art of devotion. And for them, this engagement in listening, talking, singing the stories of divine incarnations, especially Sri Krishna, to whom they are devoted to, is the primary mode of devotion. We shall see that. So this aphorism is very short, but it will take our entire class today. That's all right, no problem. So here it is. The aphorism is this: Katha dishveti gargaha. If we break it down, Katha dishu iti gargaha. Katha dishu iti gargaha. So a very short aphorism. Gargaha is name of a sage. Iti, Garga says, Bhakti is Kathadishu. And one word is missing, which we found in aphorism 16, Anuragaha. Pujadishu Anuragha iti Vyasa. So Anuraga means love for. That word we have to supply here. So Garga says Bhakti is love for hearing, divine play, etc. Garga says Bhakti is love for hearing, divine play, etc. All right. So who was Garga? Garga was a sage whose name we found in Bhagavatam, the great book on devotion, one of the Puranas, that is, Puranas is kind of mythologies. And Bhagavat Puranam is the most popular mythology in Indian subcontinent because it speaks about all the incarnations of Vishnu. And Bhagavatam is very, what I would say, very interesting books, consisting of 18,000 verses. And first 9 chapters are about different manifestations of Vishnu, with different incarnations of Vishnu. And that from the 10th chapter, it consists of 12 chapters. The 10 chapters, Sri Krishna's life starts. And they say all the first 9 chapters were just prelude or preparing the mind to come to the real heart of Bhagavatam, which is divine Leela of Sri Krishna. So this 10th chapter is of 4,000 verses. So almost 1/4 of Bhagavatam is about Sri Krishna's life and divine Leela. So in Bhagavatam, we find the name of sage Garga. He was an astrologer, and it was he, it is said, who gave the name of Sri Krishna and Sri Krishna's elder brother Balaram. That is only what we come to know about sage Garga. Katha. Katha means divine play of gods, even saints and sages. In Sanskrit, it is called Leela, divine play or another term I found, pastime, motiveless, free-flowing pastime of divine incarnations, that is Leela. So Katha means various stories associated with them. And these stories are sometimes mystical stories, non-mystical stories, miraculous stories, or even ordinary mundane stories. All these are, if related to a divine incarnation, they are called Katha. And Adi, Katha, the issue, Katha, Adi means etc. So Adi means primarily listening, but also means reading about these stories, singing this divine Leela, chanting God's name or chanting divine Leela, and most importantly, contemplating this divine Leela, these divine acts of incarnations, which is called Leela Dhyana, contemplation on divine play. So according to Garga, immense joy in hearing, talking, or contemplating of divine pastime is a sure sign of supreme devotion, para-bhakti. Those who have got para-bhakti, they love to listen, they love to talk, they love to sing, chant, or contemplate this divine lila, divine play of God. And what is, as we see that for every such expression, what is spontaneous for a parabhakta is practice for the aspirants. So it means if we also practice this katha, listening to katha, singing or reading divine plays, these stories, then we also will grow in devotion. In fact, we shall come to this topic later on, that the Krishna Bhaktas are I would say, an ideal example. Krishna Bhakti is a template or an example of what devotion could be, and through their lens we can understand the details of devotional life. So according to them, it is in fact comes in Bhagavatam, there are 9 ways in which we can lovingly connect with God. It is called Navadha Bhakti. Nava means 9, Dha means it flows in 9 ways. Bhakti expressing in 9 ways. First is, I'm just mentioning today very briefly their names only, because at some point in this text, I shall discuss details about these 9 practices. One is hearing about God, Shravana. Secondly, chanting divine name and glory. That is called Kirtana. Third, remembering God, or activities or stories connected with divine life. That is called Smarana. Fourth is serving the lotus feet, Pada Sevana. This may be difficult for a Westerner to understand. What does it mean? It may mean serving the great devotees, those who have already mastered in devotion. serving them. Then it also might mean seeing, touching, or circumambulating the deities which we find in the temples. So if you see in India, devotees, after offering their pranams to the deity, they keeps on circling the deity, which is called circumambulating. That also comes under pada sevana, serving the lotus feet. Then fifth one is worshipping God as per the scriptures, which we saw in the previous aphorism. Pradakshina, yes. Worshipping God as per the scriptures. Archana, archana, archana or archana. As we saw in aphorism 16, pujadishu, archana. Then sixth one is prostrating before God, lying down and offering your utmost reverence. That is called bandhana. Then seventh one is being servant, having the attitude that I am servant, considering oneself to be servant of God. Connecting God with the attitude that you are the master, I am the servant, which is called dasya. And eighth one is befriending God, seeing God as one's friend, sakhya. And last one is offering oneself to God, total surrender to God, atma nivedana. Atma nivedana. These are the 9 practices or 9 channels through which bhakti flows according to Bhagavata Purana. And the first 3 of them, hearing about God, chanting divine name and glory, and remembering Sravana, Kirtana, Smarana, these 3 are referred to here in this aphorism as Katha Adi. So Katha Adi is referring to the first 3 practices of 9 devotional practice, Navadha Bhakti. One great Acharya, who in Vaishnava traditions they are called Goswamis, who were ascetic devotees at the same time. They were very scholarly people. One of them was Rupa Goswami. In his famous book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that is the ocean of nectar of divine love. In that book, he mentions 64 practices. Here we are concerning 9 practices. He says 64 practices are there. And after saying 64 practices, he says, this list is not exhaustive. I have mentioned only a few. So we shall see all those things later on when we shall deal with this prescriptive bhakti or Gauni Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti. So why, there is always, why these divine stories? It only tells that the power of storytelling. Stories are powerful medium for conveying moral and spiritual values, which we find, which exist in every faith tradition. This stories telling. Even if you see that even news, if you are reading a news in a magazine or in a newspaper, you will find most of the time when they are trying to make a point about something or some issue, they always start with a specific story. They don't start with the idea. A long article starts with a specific story to illustrate the idea. It is easier, we all know, to grasp an idea when they are presented through stories, because usually human beings are not good with abstract ideas. We tend to remember moral and spiritual values if they are embedded in stories. So we find that in Vedanta traditions, there are always stories. One, there are usually two types. One are historical and the other one is mythological. Historical are those who have historical basis, but they started with the historical stories, but later on, over the many years, there were many embellishments. So popular, these two are epics. The Mahabharata, consisting of 100,000 verses. Then Ramayana, the story of Rama, 24,000 verses. And although they have historical references, or definitely they had some historic value, or I would say definitely they happened, what were mentioned in these two epics, but there were many embellishments, exaggeration later on. So they are not total record of history, but they have historical reference. The other one is mythological, and popular among them are 18 Puranas, full of stories. And these stories are all about some moral values or spiritual values, full of this story. We see that Sri Ramakrishna too used to tell a lot of stories. In turn, we remember many stories of spiritual values because they were embedded in stories. So Garga says, one of the very compelling forms or styles of devotion is hearing the stories of divine incarnations. Hearing the stories of divine incarnations. Shuka says in Bhagavatam, chapter 1, chapter 10th book of Bhagavad, he says, inquiry about divine play purifies three types of people: the inquirer, the listener, and the narrator. All of them are purified through these divine stories. Such life stories elevate us. Such life stories, if we can enjoy them, or we can have the right attitude, they elevate us. This is the sweetness of divine Leela. What is the sweetness of divine Leela? Divine incarnations who had mystical powers, but we find they are behaving exactly like human beings. In fact, the Krishna Bhaktas, devotees of Krishna's, the Vaishnavas, to them, the greatest devotional practice is to read, listen, talk, sing, contemplate the different incidents that happened in the lifetime of Sri Krishna. And what is the essence of the divine Leela? Humanness of God. God stripped off all the glories they have, without glories, like Sri Krishna as a baby child stealing the butter from the neighborhood, and they are complaining to Sri Krishna's mother that Sri Krishna is stealing butter from our houses, when stealthily entering and stealing butter. So to a devotee of Sri Krishna, Sri Krishna, the God incarnate, is behaving just like a naughty child. So this is the sweetness of divine Leela. Leela is really difficult to understand. To be frank, difficult to understand. It is very subtle, and our mind needs to be elevated to a great height to understand what divine Leela is. But to understand Leela, even intellectually, we need to understand one more thing, that is Yoga Maya. So I try to spend some time on this, Leela and Yoga Maya. So Bhagavatam plays, as I said, great importance, emphasis on Leela. Leela means pure play or spontaneous, joyful pastime of God with intimate devotees. It is an exchange of love between God and devotee, where both of them are not aware of the divine stature of God. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavatam, which deals with Leela of Sri Krishna, Leela, the word is used frequently when Sri Krishna is playing as a child with his friends in the beautiful, idyllic forests of Vrindavan, or interacting with beloved devotees, the cowherd community, the Gopa and the Gopis, cowherd boys and cowherd girls. And when Sri Krishna is free of any sense of mission or purpose, we know that God incarnates to fulfill some purpose, some mission. But in this Leela, God appears to have no purpose, no mission to fulfill. It is just a spontaneous play between God and devotee. This term is never used in Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna has a mission of imparting spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. Then Krishna is all serious, a teacher. But when we come to Leela aspect, then God has no mission, no purpose. It is just a play, a just human interaction between God and devotee. The 10th book of Bhagavatam says that Sri Krishna assumed a human body for the sake of Leela. Unlike other human beings who take birth to work out their karma, God incarnates, assumes a human body for the sake of taking part in Leela, divine play. It is an expression of God's love for the devotees, so that the devotees can relate to God, connect to God through different roles and different relationships according to their devotional desires, what is called bhava, which we shall come later on. Some wants to connect to God as friend. Some wants to connect to God as their children. Some as master, as Uddhava wanted. So, to fulfill these wishes of the devotees, God assumes human body. This is the main thesis of Bhagavatam. And Sri Krishna's Leela enchants the devotees of Vrindavan. And they say that those devotees who could take part in this divine play had earned that privilege by their unshakable devotion to God over numerous lives. In their previous numerous life, they practiced Vaidhi Bhakti, prescriptive Bhakti. And for that, they have been granted this privilege of having unique personal relationship with Sri Krishna as friend, parent, or lover. And this joy, according to Bhagavatam, this joy of taking part in Leela is so great that a devotee does not even want to get liberation. This is Leela. And the key to understanding Leela is a concept called Yoga Maya, which is called divine illusion. The term is oxymoron, right? Yoga and Maya. According to Vedanta, Maya is what prevents us from knowing our true Atman, what we are. And Maya is what diverts our consciousness to this world. And yoga is just the opposite. It connects the devotee with God, and it is a means to free the Atman from this misidentification with the world and misidentification with this body-mind complex. So what is this Yoga Maya? So Yoga Maya is a divine illusion which deludes, mark the words, deludes the liberated souls participating in the Leela with her power of concealment. Those who are taking part in the Leela, especially say in the Vrindavan at the time of Sri Krishna, they are all liberated souls. Okay, but owing to this Yoga Maya, this divine illusion, they do not perceive Krishna as Supreme Godhead. Because of this illusion, it's a divine illusion, they forget that Krishna's divine nature, so that they are not overwhelmed by God's majesty and supremacy. Rather, they can see Krishna as their friend, as their child, as their lover. And according to Bhagavatam, Yoga Maya is an illusion which manifests only at the highest stage of bhakti. It is highly coveted experience by the most qualified yogis. Narada in Bhagavatam says that he hankers after, he's hungry for this Yoga Maya. So regular Maya, yogis want to get rid of. And Yoga Maya, yogis crave for that. Narada says, I crave for Yoga Maya, through which I can take part in this divine Leela. Regular Maya can disappear only through devotion to Krishna, according to Bhagavatam. And Yoga Maya can appear only by supreme devotion to Krishna. So Yoga Maya, this divine illusion, is a highly coveted state for the devotees of Sri Krishna. And Sri Krishna, from Bhagavatam it appears, relishes these personal, informal associations far more than the conventional formal worship in awe and reverence. Krishna does not want to be only the God on high. He wants to enjoy Leela with his friends as an equal or as a child with his parents as a substitute. And even Sri Krishna forgets his own supremacy while engaging in Leela through this Yoga Maya. There are numerous examples of Yoga Maya. One is once baby Krishna, ate ate some dirt And his mother, baby Krishna's mother, Yashoda, wanted to see what he has eaten. And when Sri Krishna opened his mouth, Yashoda looked into it and saw that the entire universe in Sri Krishna's mouth. So immediately she understood Sri Krishna, the God, and bowed down, started chanting mantras of the Veda. And she is no more able to interact with Sri Krishna as her own baby. Then Sri Krishna casts this yoga maya, divine illusion, which erases her memory. She forgets what she has seen, and she again tries to takes Krishna on her lap, continues to care her adorable infant baby. So this is Yoga Maya, and through this Yoga Maya, Sri Krishna becomes subordinate to the residents of Vrindavan, just like a wooden puppet. Through this Yoga Maya, here God becomes a puppet in the hands of devotees, as it were. So had there been no Yoga Maya, there would be no Leela. Now, this is Yoga Maya and Leela. The question is, if this is so sweet, this Leela of Bhagavan, divine play, pastime, what we can do about that? How we can also enjoy this divine Leela? This is what is engaging in Katha. Engaging in Katha. Anuraga, love, to engage in listening, narrating, contemplating those divine plays. That is what for us. Bhagavad Gita also says in chapter 10, with mind fixed on me, with lives dedicated to me, enlightening each other, and always speaking of me, the devotees derive satisfaction and rejoice. Mat chitta mad gata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nittam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Because the devotees, true devotees, love to talk only about God. And when they talk to each other about this divine Leela, their activities, their stories, the humanness of God, they rejoice a lot. It's a bliss for them. That's why we find great devotees kept themselves engaged in narrating divine play. Narada, for example, as it appears from various Puranas, the role of Narada is to what? Go everywhere and chanting the glories of Lord. He inspires Vyasa, the great scholar who had composed Mahabharata, Vedas, who compiled the Vedas and did the classification of Vedas, then wrote Brahma Sutra and so many things. Even after doing all those things, he was found to be depressed. He was not happy. And Narada comes and says that the reason is that you have not described in detail, you have engaged yourself in scholarly pursuit, in philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, but you have not devoted so much time in explaining, narrating the sweet divine play. That is why you are dissatisfied. And so then Vyasa composes Bhagavatam to glorify the divine play of Sri Krishna. Narada also inspires the robber Ratnakar, who later on became Valmiki, to compose Ramayana. Then Tulsidas great devotee. He wrote Ramcharitamanas. It is life of Rama and very popular in northern India in colloquial language. Then we find Akshay Kumar Sen, a great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He composed Sri Ramakrishna Puthi, a life story of Sri Ramakrishna, a big volume in poem, in totally in a in poemical form, in poetry. Akshay Kumar Sen. And then we find the story of Mahendranath Gupta, M, who recorded the life stories of gospel, life stories and interaction, all the activities of Sri Ramakrishna in Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And later on, we find that many people used to go to Mahendranath Gupta. Even I find so many people like Autobiography of Yogi, Paramahamsa Yogananda. He was very much inspired by Mahendranath Gupta, and so many people went to him, but he would only speak about all that he saw about in Sri Ramakrishna. And so that is narrating the life stories of the divine incarnations. Some like to listen. It was narration. Some likes to listen to divine play. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would like to listen to what happened to Sri Krishna, all those life stories of Sri Krishna. And we see Sri Ramakrishna too, very often. He would listen to Bhagavatam and other such stories which speaks about divine Leela. And let me give out one secret that I have seen. All the old Swamis, scholarly Swamis, at the end of their life, I see all of them take most interest in listening or reading divine plays, not once, but several times a day. There are many examples of noted scholarly Swamis in our order, Swami Gambhiranandaji, Swami Madhavanandaji, Swami Vishuddhanandaji, Swami Bhuteshanandaji, but at the end, they used to read only one book, and they used to listen to only one book, Gospel of Kathamrita, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Kathamrita. They said, we have read every scripture, everything, but now this is what we find interesting. Even my own guru, I have seen that when he was the president, at least I think 5 times a day and 30 minutes each time, other monks used to gather around him and read these divine plays related to these divine incarnations, at least 5 times daily I have seen. So this is what engaging in divine play is. It is difficult for us really to enjoy reading and contemplating on divine play, but once we get some taste of it, it is one of the most efficacious devotional practice. The psychology behind it, as it appears to me, is we love to talk and think about people we love. So other way around, we may say familiarity is a great factor for liking someone. Even last week, I saw a documentary Netflix has brought out, very new, just it brought out, it was published in last week only, 100 humans. So they brought 100 humans from different part of USA, from different genders, different classes, age group, different philosophies, ideologies, different political bending, and did many experiments, many experiments with their consent, and everything was videotaped. Very interesting 3-part series. There, they wanted to find out who we find attractive. What is the common thing that lies at the heart of attractiveness? So they found that familiarity stands apart from all other features like symmetry or anything else to be if there is only one factor for which we like someone is familiarity. So by narrating, listening, and reading the stories of divine play, what we are doing is we are developing a love for them. Okay, the more we are being engaged, so it is other way around, we are becoming more familiar with them and we are cultivating that love. As we said, we love to talk and think about people we love. So the more we talk and think about a divine personality, that love grows in our heart. The more we know and dwell on divine personalities, the more we love them. Swami Adbhutananda ji, one rather rustic disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, he said that how can you love a person if you don't know them? He was saying this in connection of integration of jnana and bhakti. So jnana means knowledge, bhakti is devotion. In his simple term, if you don't know someone, how can you love that person? So knowledge and bhakti goes hand in hand. This is what he meant. And I would say one of the American Swamis who still living, he said that he is a great scholar. He is a PhD in Sanskrit and did his PhD from, I think, University of Philadelphia on Vaishnava literature. And he's a scholar in Sanskrit, PhD in Sanskrit. So he says that his spiritual practice is not only lila dhyana, contemplation on divine life. He says only one thing, Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And I always think about, create in my mind the scenes, the ambience that we find in Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. He says that they say that spirituality means being here and now. Being here and now, this is spirituality. They say in present day. But for me, spirituality is then and there. There means at the Kineshwar Kali temple, because most of the stories we find in the gospel is in the Kineshwar Kali temple. And then means at that time. So living not at present and here, but to him spirituality is living then and there. There means with in Sri Ramakrishna's time, and there means in the Kineshwar Kali temple. So this is what Katha is. This Katha means stories of divine love, is very powerful. And in India, northern India, we see Ram Lila, stories of Ramas played out, evenings for a week or so. Then Bhagavat week, stories about Sri Krishna. Every evening, so thousands, they, get record number of people, 100,000 people for 7 days. There will be only talk about Bhagavatam. Then food will be supplied, bed will be supplied. This is called Bhagavat Saptaha. or Ram Lila. And southern India, they call it Katha Kirtana. Katha Kirtana means in the form of songs, these divine stories, or they sometimes call Hari Katha. Any good spiritual topics in the form of singing. So summary of this aphorism is, according to Garga, immense joy in hearing, reading, talking, chanting, singing, contemplating divine pastime is a sure sign of Parabhakti, supreme devotion. And for us, the aspirants of Bhakti Yoga, it is a very efficacious practice for cultivating Bhakti. So, and one more expression of Bhakti we shall see in the next aphorism. Oh, no. Cancel. All right. So, any question? I think I took a lot of time. Understand that this Leela may not be appealing to all, and we may not really appreciate Leela, but I wanted to let you know about a phenomenological aspect of Leela. Leela as they see it, as it is. Any question? You may ask, you may unmute and ask me. You may unmute yourself and ask me the question.
Maharaj, Arundhati has a question.
Maharaj, you said Yoga Maya also deludes the incarnation. Incarnations are never deluded.
I thought they throw the Yoga Maya, right? They invoke the Yoga Maya.
Through Yogamaya, they forget themselves also, that they are gods sometimes. This is what Bhagavatam says. That although they wield the Yogamaya, but owing to Yogamaya, they also sometimes forget that they are divine beings taking part in this Leela.
Maharaj, there are also Upanishadic stories. The stories in Upanishads also.
Yeah, stories in Upanishads too, to drive home some spiritual topics. All right, so we shall practice some meditation. Yes. Yes, Sri Ramakrishna and his Divine Play is also a very good book. Yes, sure. It's all right. I am muting myself for 1 minute. Give me 1 minute, a minute. And also All right. Sit comfortably wherever you are sitting. Try to sit upright. And relaxed. Please close your eyes. And try to be aware of the fact that you are sitting here on your chair. The chair is pressing against your body. Try to feel the contacts between your body and chair. Take a moment to adjust your posture. So that you are comfortable and relaxed. Now, take 4 deep and slow breaths. Come back to your normal breathing. Try to gently be aware of your breathing without trying to control it. Try to witness how your body is breathing. Imagine an ocean of light and you are at the center of that ocean. Light inside you, outside you. Try to be aware of your thoughts which are floating in this ocean. Do not try to control any thought. Each thought is like a wave arising, staying, and dissolving. in this ocean of consciousness. And you, the pure consciousness, is a witness of these fleeting thoughts. Now, imagine the pure consciousness, which is the observer, is your favorite deity, who is sitting on this chair. He or she is smiling and observing the thoughts. Your favorite deity is nothing but the pure consciousness that you are. And they are always present with you. whether you remember or not. Imagine each thought that is arising in this ocean is like a flower. And that is what you are offering to your favorite deity. And which is very pleasing to them. Different thoughts and flowers of different colors. All are being presented to God. Now imagine your favorite deity is slowly dissolving into this ocean of consciousness. You are saying goodbye to your favorite deity. And they too happily say goodbye to you. and become one with this ocean of light, ocean of consciousness. Now, please take 3 deep breaths. And slowly open your eyes. Read some holy book and try to keep this mood for a while. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.